How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder. Today, we're going to be recapping some of the games from Week 1 around the NFL. It was a very exciting Week 1. Very happy that football is back. And this is why the NFL, when you compare it to the other major sports leagues, the NBA, Major League Baseball, and the NHL, they cannot compete with the NFL. The NFL is just undefeated. It is so great that it's back, and those other leagues cannot compete with them. But the games I wanted to talk about, and we'll go through some of the other games throughout the week. Very busy weekend again, especially with football being back, and 3 separate days. The Cowboys and the Eagles got things started off in Week 1. Then you had a great game on Friday between the Chiefs and the Chargers. The Chargers winning that game. Full slate on Sunday, and then of course we have the game tonight between the Bears and the Vikings. J.J. McCarthy making his debut for the Vikings, and we will also see how Caleb Williams looks with Ben Johnson, the former offensive coordinator for the Lions, now the head coach of the Bears. And after what we saw yesterday, Lions kind of missed Ben Johnson with how they played. So I want to get into which was the best game of the day, and it was the final game of the day, and that was the Sunday night game between the Ravens and the Bills. Now, again, we had some good games down the stretch, especially in the early window. Actually, also, we had some good games in the late window as well. Some late heroics from Brock Purdy to lead the 49ers to a win, and also Nick Bosa as well at the end. But you had some great finishes to start the day on Sunday. But I wanted to talk about the game from last night between the Bills and the Ravens. This was a rematch from the divisional game from last year in Buffalo. The Ravens losing that game. The Mark Andrews drop on the 2-point conversion that would have tied the game. Lamar Jackson had a couple of turnovers in the first half. That game. This was an unbelievable game. Unbelievable game that the Ravens should have won. Should have won. They dominated this game. They were the better team pretty much the entire time until the final 10 minutes where the Bills they pulled it off. But they did benefit from Ravens' mistakes and also a little bit of luck as well. So, I mean, the Ravens just were running the ball up and down the field. Derrick Henry, once again, every time this guy goes up against the Bills, he just has a monster game. Last year against the Bills in Baltimore, he had almost 200 yards rushing. Last night, not exactly the same stat line, but still, he ran the ball for 169 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns. And he made me regret who he will be playing tonight, so I'll see how he does. He made me regret passing on him at the 107 in my fantasy draft because not only did he go off last night against the Bills, he went off against me in my matchup in fantasy. But Derrick Henry, once again, goes off against the Bills, 169 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. And the Ravens ran the ball for over 200 yards in this game. He had on the 70 yards by Lamar Jackson. He had a rushing touchdown in this game. They had 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 by Derrick Henry and 1 by Lamar Jackson. They ran the ball for 238 yards on this Bills defense. And the Bills made a lot of changes. Now, to their defense, there's a couple of guys that are suspended that they're going to be getting back that are going to help in the running game. But yeah, I mean, they added Joey Bosa. They added some other guys. Ogunjobi they added, who's one of the guys that is suspended. They got to get those guys back because that run defense, once again, was a sieve. And they just could not stop this Ravens offense. Now, the Bills, they got things started off pretty quickly. They go right down the field on their first drive. Josh Allen hits Dolan Kincaid for a touchdown, so that gets things started there. And then the Ravens, they respond. They go down the field. And their rookie kicker, Tyler Loop, he kicks a field goal to put them on the board, a 52-yarder. So not easy. So that got the Ravens on the board there. And then, they got another touchdown. Well, they got their first touchdown of the game. That was Derrick Henry's first rushing touchdown from 30 yards out to give them the 10-7 lead. And then they scored another touchdown to make it 17-7. Lamar Jackson, his rushing touchdown. Bills kicked a field goal. Ravens got another field goal right before the end of the first half. And this is where it was the beginning of the end for the Ravens. And we didn't realize this. And this kind of got forgotten about because of all the craziness that happened in the fourth quarter. But the Bills have the ball right before the end of the first half. And they run a play. Ravens are not rushing anybody after Allen. He's sitting back there. and he finds Kincaid along the sidelines. Now, initially, I thought this is the end of the first half. All right, that's it. Bills aren't getting anything out of this now. But they reviewed it, and the Ravens are going into the tunnel for halftime. And now they're calling the Ravens back saying, no, it's not over yet. So they determined after they reviewed the play that there was 1 second left on the clock. So they give the Bills an extra second. That allows them to kick a field goal right before the end of the first half with Matt Prater, who they brought Matt Prater in because Tyler Bass, their kicker, was out. He was placed on IR. And we'll talk about Matt Prater a little bit later. But that was a huge play in this game. Huge play. And again, I thought that was the end of the first half. And I rewatched the play several times. I guess there was like, it's like in the NBA. It was like a tenth of a second left or something. But, I mean, the clock hit 0. But they reviewed it, and they said, yep, 1 second left on the clock. So Prater kicks a field goal. Bills get points out of that, so it's 20-13. But then the Ravens come right out in the second half. They go right down the field, and Lamar Jackson finds Zay Flowers for a 23-yard touchdown. Zay Flowers, he also had a very good game last night. 7 receptions for 143 yards and a touchdown. Very good game out of Zay Flowers. So that made it 27-13. But then the Bills respond. They go right down the field themselves. And James Cook from 2 yards out, who had a good game last night, he scores. They go for 2. They do get it with Keon Coleman. But he was out of bounds and got charged with an illegal touching because you can't do that. So that ends up not counting. So it stays at 27-19. Both teams exchanged punts. And this is where I thought, the game was really over. I mean, there were two instances where I thought the game was over. Ravens go down the field, 36-yard reception by Zay Flowers, and then Lamar Jackson throws a pass down the sideline to DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins makes a one-handed grab in the end zone for a touchdown. Listen, D-Hop, he's not the same guy that could take over a game, but he could still make plays. And you saw that when he got traded to the Chiefs last year. He could still be that red zone threat. And once again, he proved that last night with that great catch. And Lamar Jackson and D-Hop got into it with a Bills fan in the stands as they were celebrating after this touchdown. But yeah, so that put the Ravens up 34-19 towards the end of the third quarter. But then the Bills respond. They go down the field. 51-yard pass play to James Cook. It looked like he was going to take it all the way to the house, but he got tackled short of the goal line. And then Josh Allen, of course, punches it in. And then Josh Allen tries to hit Dolan Kincaid on the two-point conversion. It gets intercepted. So it's 34-25. But then the Ravens, again, score a touchdown. The Bills, every time it looked like they had momentum, the Ravens would shut it down. Derrick Henry, 46-yard touchdown. So that made it 40-25. So at that point, I thought, okay, Ravens should be good. They should be good. The Bills are not going to come back from this. And we've seen the Bills get into these shootouts before last year. Remember the game against the Rams? I mean, they were down most of that game, but Josh Allen had like 6 total touchdowns in that game. Also the game against the Lions as well. That was really high scoring. But yeah, I thought at that point the game was over. But that was not the case. They ended up getting another touchdown, which was a pretty lucky play because it was to Dolan Kincaid from 10 yards out. It was 4th and 2, and the ball got deflected like several times, and Keon Coleman caught it off the rebound. So, so the Bills get points out of that. Matt Prater makes the extra point, so that made it 40-32 at that point. And then, yeah, this is where it really this was really the beginning of the end because for the Ravens. So the Bills get the touchdown, and then on the next drive, Derrick Henry fumbles. We could talk about how well Derrick Henry ran the football all night, but here, costly mistake. Fumbles the football. Bills turn that into 6 points as well. Josh Allen scores a 1-yard touchdown. It was set up by a 29-yard pass play to one of the backup tight ends. That made it 40-38. And then this is where the Ravens got some heat because they get the ball back. They punted on 4th and 3 from their own 38. A lot of people are saying the Ravens should have went for it. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. Because now all the momentum is on the Bills' side. And if you remember, this goes back to 2021, okay, against the Chiefs. All right? I think this was Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumbles. I think this is what happened. Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumbles, the Ravens get the football, right? Lamar Jackson goes to John Harbaugh and says, John Harbaugh says to Lamar, you want to go for it? Lamar says, let's go for it. And they were in their own territory. It was on 4th down. And they went for it. And they got the first down and they won the game. And that was the first time Lamar Jackson ever beat Patrick Mahomes. All the momentum is on Josh Allen's side and the Bills' side. It's 4th and 3. You run that same exact play with Lamar. And most of the time you're going to get it. And they probably would have got it. I mean, we don't know. Maybe the Bills would have stuffed them. But you put the ball in your best player's hands. Because that defense was not stopping anything. It wasn't. I mean, Josh Allen in that offense was... They were cooking at that point. All the momentum was on their side. And they didn't go for it. They punted it. And what happened? Jair Alexander got burnt in this game. And they didn't tackle... Like, Jair Alexander tried to tackle Keon Coleman. And he ended up tripping him up. But it didn't matter. You know, and then the Ravens had to burn all their timeouts. And Matt Prater comes in, kicks the 32-yard field goal, and the Bills win 41-40. Also, I think the Ravens missed an extra point. Yeah, they missed the PAT. That was another thing too. That was costly. So you had the missed PAT, you had the field goal right before the end of the first half, you had the Derrick Henry fumble. You also had the Keon Coleman touchdown that got deflected a million times on 4th down that he ended up catching in the end zone. There's a lot of things you could point to as to why the Ravens lost. Now, I know some people are going to say, here we go. Once again, Lamar Jackson can't get it done at the very end of the game. Lamar Jackson in this offense put up 40 points. Okay, there was a lot of craziness that happened that he's not responsible for. Is he responsible for the Ravens' defense, for what they did at the end of the first half to allow the Bills to get 3 points? Is it his fault that Derrick Henry fumbled? Is it his fault that his rookie kicker missed an extra point? Is it his fault that his defense couldn't get a stop? Did you want him to play defense when Keon Coleman caught that touchdown? That game is not on Lamar Jackson. Now, you could say, look, the Ravens, they had an opportunity to ice the game. You know, right before the touchdown drive, Bills got to 38. Actually, no, that was the Derrick Henry. But the punt. You know, after the Bills scored to make it 38. Yeah, that's what, yeah, I was on the right track with that. After the Bills got to 38 points, you had an opportunity to ice that game, and you went 3 and out. But you should have went for it on 4th down. You should have went for it. Because Josh Allen right now we could say Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. We could do that. But Josh Allen is the reigning MVP. All right, you got the reigning MVP on that side. He is having a great 4th quarter. He's having a great game in general. You gotta put the ball in the hands of your best players. Put the ball in the hands of the 2-time MVP and not on the defense. Which the defense was on the field for a long time, especially with the Bills score and then Henry fumbles. You know, like it was a disaster of a 4th quarter. The Bills outscored the Ravens 22-6 in the 4th quarter. And again, the Ravens looked like the better team the entire game. And, you know, I talked up the moves that they made in the secondary. You know, it's that defense. I mean, you could say, again, the defense did not play well towards the end of the game, but you could also say the defense was out there for so long. They were tired. And you're playing against Josh Allen. But, yeah, that was an unbelievable game. And just credit to Josh Allen. And, you know, they were asking Josh Allen, look, you had all these fans leaving. You know, and he was talking about that. Fans were leaving because the game was over. Game was not over. Game's never over when you got Josh Allen as your quarterback. And like I said, he finished the game, 2 rushing touchdowns, 33 of 46, 394 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Lamar Jackson, 14 of 19, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He had 70 yards on the ground in the touchdown. Both of these quarterbacks have very good games. But if your takeaway from this game is you're gonna put the blame on Lamar Jackson, you're wrong. It's not on Lamar Jackson that they lost this game. There's a lot of other things you could point to before you get to Lamar Jackson as to why the Ravens lost this game. And then, of course, Matt Prater, kicking the game-winning field goal. Josh Allen was pumped up, telling him, welcome to Buffalo. That was big. Listen, Matt Prater he's been around for a long time. I think he's 41 now. He's been around for a long time. He had the, single season longest field goal in NFL history prior to Justin Tucker knocking him off when he kicked that field goal against the Lions a few years ago. But, how about that for Matt Prater? But what a game. What a game to end off what was a very exciting week 1. But my takeaways from this game, look, you could say the Ravens still can't win the big one. Look, it's one game. It's one game, and not only was it an exciting week 1, we also saw a lot of sloppy football yesterday across the league. Teams got to get acclimated. All right, you're going to start seeing better football as we, get a little bit further into the season. You get to the end of the first quarter of the season. That's when teams start to gel, start to figure it out. But yeah, that was an unbelievable game. The Ravens had that game, but again, there is just several mistakes on the Ravens' part, and just the Bills had a little bit of luck on their side too. Keon Coleman, again, I go back to the Keon Coleman touchdown. Like that, So, yeah. But actually, speaking of Keon Coleman had himself a game. The Bills are very high on him going into this season, and he balled out. He had some big catches yesterday, had 11 targets, 8 receptions, 112 yards, and a touchdown. He balled out. This is in year 2, and they paid Khalil Shakir. Dolan Kincaid had a good game and had the touchdown. James Cook, of course, got paid this offseason. If this is the Keon Coleman that they're going to get this season, what a weapon to add to this offense. And he's still incredibly young, right? Yeah, he's only 22 years old. Yeah, so there is a lot of room to grow. But what a game for him last night as well. But yeah, this was great. And it's a lot of fun when these two teams get together. Really is. But yeah, Ravens fall to 0-1 on the season now. For both teams, the Bills will be taking on the Jets, which we're going to talk about that game. Have to. And so the Bills will be taking on the Jets next week. And as for the Ravens, they will be taking on the Cleveland Browns, who lost yesterday to the Bengals. The Bengals won week 1, everybody. They did. They did it. Wasn't pretty. Many people could say they should have lost if the Browns kicker could make a field goal and an extra point. I think he also missed. But the Bengals were able to get the win. So they get off to a fast start, if you want to call it that.